and welcome. You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Philip Toledo coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. It's November 17, 2020, and as always, we have updates tonight from several of our correspondents across North America. Thomas Leckness in Edmonton, Alberta.
December holiday season in Canada will likely be virtual.
Carlo Valdez in Union Township reports about Governor Phil Murphy announcing infrastructure projects in New Jersey. Then we'll head to Fort Worth, Texas with Lovely Anderson.
COVID-19 cases in Tarrant County, Texas rise, and Tarrant County beautifies river area with outdoor murals.
Then in Las Vegas, Nevada, Anna Cui will report about Clark County School District tabling vote for in-person learning for the third time during the pandemic. Then we'll head to Los Angeles, California with Emmanuel Sanchez.
Los Angeles extends hours of testing at Dodger Stadium to maximize capacity for the city amid surging COVID-19 cases.
Then Macy Membrere in Sacramento, California reports about California joining an agreement for restoration of the Klamath River and pulling its emergency brake on reopening due to the rise in COVID-19 cases. Then Michael Hudson in Everett, Washington reports about Washington Governor Jay Inslee reinstating COVID-19 restrictions after a spike in cases. Plus, several stories from our business desk with Bobby Soriano in New York. And finally, for EBC Sports, EJ Gonzalez in Alexandria, Virginia.
Big trades are shaking up the NBA.
And for tonight's virtual roundtable, it's National Take a Hike Day. Our Eagle News team will take us to their friendly neighborhood trails. Our coverage begins now with an overview of today's COVID-19 numbers. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time today, Tuesday, November 17, 2020, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 55,333,000. The top three on the list of countries with recorded cases are the United States with 11.2 million, India with 8.8 million, and Brazil with 5.8 million. Sadly, this virus has now already claimed more than 1,332,000 lives worldwide. The top three countries with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths are the same. The U.S. with more than 247,000, Brazil with more than 166,000, and India with more than 130,000. We begin our coverage with a UN refugee agency spokesman. Babar Baylok says thousands of people are fleeing northern Ethiopia's conflict-torn Tigray region, and the border area with Sudan now faces a full-blown refugee emergency. Take a look.
The UN Refugee Agency is warning that a full-scale humanitarian crisis is unfolding as thousands of refugees flee ongoing fighting in Ethiopia's Tigray region each day to seek safety in eastern Sudan. This is an influx unseen over the last 2 decades in this part of Sudan. Women, men, and children are crossing the border at the rate of 4,000 people per day since 10th of November, rapidly overwhelming the humanitarian response capacity on the ground. So far, more than 27,000 refugees have now crossed into Sudan through the Hamdayat border in Kassala state, the Lugdi border point in Gedaref state, and now a new location further south at Adarifi border, where Ethiopian refugees started crossing over the past weekend. The humanitarian situation as a result of this crisis is growing rapidly. UNHCR reiterates its call for peace and urges all parties to respect the safety and security for all civilians in Tigray.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization chief hailed Monday encouraging news about COVID-19 vaccines, but expressed concern about surging cases in many countries and insisted that complacency was not an option. Take a look.
Health workers on the front lines have been stretched for months They're exhausted. We must do all we can to protect them, especially during this period when the virus is spiking and patients are filling hospital beds.
His comments came as global hopes of overcoming the coronavirus pandemic were boosted after a second candidate vaccine was found to be nearly 95% effective in an ongoing trial. The news from the U.S. biotech firm Moderna brought much-needed optimism to a world facing surging infections and grueling new restrictions. It came after similar results were announced last week for a vaccine candidate developed by pharma giant Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech. But the World Health Organization has warned that widespread availability of any vaccine remains a long way off, even as COVID-19 cases and deaths surge in many parts of the world.
A dangerous virus which can attack every system in the body. Those countries that are letting the virus run unchecked are playing with fire. First, there will be further needless deaths and suffering. Second, as we featured 2 weeks ago in a press conference, we're seeing a significant number of people experiencing long-term effects of the virus. There is no excuse for inaction. My message is very clear. Act fast, act now, act decisively. A laissez-faire attitude to the virus, not using the full range of tools available, leads to death, suffering, and hurts livelihoods and economies. It's not a choice between lives or livelihoods. The quickest way to open up economies is to defeat the virus.
In other news, the Iranian government spokesman Ali Rabi says that any military action by the United States against Iran would be met with a crushing response during a press conference in Tehran. The New York Times reported Monday, 2 months before he is due to leave office, President Donald Trump asked top aides about the possibility of striking Iran's nuclear facilities.
خیلی نزدیک نمی‌بینم که همچین تصمیمی رو که دنیا رو بخوان منطقه رو به هر حال با ناامنی روبرو بکنن، ولی در هر صورت پاسخ جمع‌بندی شده ما همیشه این بوده که هر گونه اقدامی علیه مردم ایران قطعاً پاسخ کوبنده خودش رو خواهد داشت.
Now, back in the U.S., Facebook and Twitter defended their handling of U.S. election misinformation at a heated congressional hearing Tuesday, where one key senator assailed the platforms for being the, quote, ultimate editor of political news. The hearing, the second in less than a month, came with social media under increasing fire from both the left and the right for their handling of political content during a bitter U.S. presidential campaign. Facebook chief Mark Zuckerberg and Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey testified remotely to the session, called to discuss censorship and suppression of news articles and the handling of the 2020 election by the platforms. Senator Lindsey Graham, chairing the Judiciary Committee hearing, warned the CEOs that new regulations are needed to ensure that major platforms are held responsible for decisions on removing, filtering, or allowing content to remain. The Republican senator said at the opening as he took aim at the decisions by both platforms to limit the distribution of a New York Post article claiming to expose malfeasance involving the son of President-elect Joe Biden during the campaign, quote, "It seems that you're the ultimate editor. When you have companies that have the power of governments and have far more power than traditional media outlets, something has to give," end quote. Graham said the law known as Section 230 that gives immunity to online services for content posted by others needs to be changed.
The public asked us to offer additional context to help make potentially misleading information more apparent. We did exactly that, applying labels to over 300,000 tweets from October 27th to November 11th, which represented about 2.2% of all U.S. election-related tweets.
For certain types of illegal content, I think it may be appropriate for there to be clear rules around that.
Now, the holiday season is around the corner, And in Canada, it will be more than likely, like most things are today, virtual under the circumstances. In Edmonton, Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness is with us this evening. Thomas?
Thank you, Philip. Well, as we all know, we're in the middle of a serious second wave of a pandemic. But Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau still has that happy face on whenever he's asked about the December holiday season. Will it feature a lockdown? Trudeau says no. The federal government has no plans for major restrictions. He says, well, yeah, things will be different this year, but no, we're not going to have any major lockdown. He still dangles that hope in front of people that maybe family and friends can be part of the holiday celebrations as 2020 draws to a close.
Which we're able to do will depend on a few things: what region of the country you're in, what people are able to do between now and the holidays in order to flatten the curve, to reduce the number of cases.
People, don't be complacent. You know, buried in the fine print of his update today are the increasing COVID case numbers. And then there's the reminder that the steps we take today will determine how we bid farewell to this year and ring in the new one. But you know, with only 6 weeks to go, many observers are saying it's just not realistic that we can flatten that curve by year's end. At a news conference today, Ontario Premier Doug Ford telling reporters with the way the numbers are rising, people should be cautious this holiday season. No optimism in his voice, no happy face. As a matter of fact, his province has taken a step back, brought in new restrictions, and just a couple of days ago, Ford telling us he won't hesitate to lock things down if the circumstances warrant it. Then he told this story about a group of people who decided to hold a party. And holding a party is difficult in Ontario because regular venues are closed.
This is what I'm talking about. This is a new one. So they go out to party, and I guess they rent a public storage area, and 100 people go in there to hold a party. Like, come on, we know a certain percentage of those people, just going by what we see the data, like someone in that group is probably positive, and they're spreading around, and those people are going to go out and spread it around. Man, like I just give my head a shake when I hear these things. 100 people in a storage unit, like really? That's all I'll tell you. It's just nothing ceases to amaze me now with the behavior of some people. It's absolutely ridiculous.
You know, I see the frustration with Premier Ford every day when I watch his news conferences, and things like that just add to it. Again, we just have to accept the reality that until the vaccine is widely available and enough people are immunized, we just have to limit our social contacts. It ain't like it used to be. In the meantime, though, I wish you all good health. Remember to take care of others, take care of yourselves. Stay home, stay safe, and stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic and other current affairs. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, Thomas, for that report. Now, we've been talking a lot about the Canada-U.S. border, being able to, come visit you there in Edmonton. Is it set to reopen anytime soon?
I don't think so. You know, they first closed that border for 30 days back in March. That 1 month closure has been extended 7 times now. Deadline is up again on Saturday, November 21st. It's set to reopen. But, you know, the Prime Minister has repeatedly said he doesn't want to see it reopen until things are safe. Now, you have skyrocketing cases down there. We have skyrocketing cases up here. I don't think either country wants to welcome visitors from the other side right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if that extension is announced again in a day or two and probably re-announced for the next several months.
Well, what about all the snowbirds? Are they going to be able to flock to Arizona and Florida this winter then?
There'll be a few, but not as many. You know, non-essential travelers can still go to the U.S. by air, so there'll be some who will fly down there to escape the winter up here, but the numbers are going to be substantially down from previous years. Again, the Prime Minister recommending against not only going down to the U.S., but anywhere in the world right now. He says those who are determined to go, those should be aware of the risks, aware of the area they're going to and what the case numbers are like, and make doubly sure you have adequate health insurance, because getting sick down there is not going to be cheap if you're from another country.
That's very true, Thomas. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm sure we'll catch up with our virtual roundtable a little bit later.
You bet. You take care, Philip.
Thank you. Now, when we come back, we'll have updates from our Eagle News correspondents in Union Township, New Jersey, Fort Worth, Texas, and more. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
It says the best defense is still containment.
We are in uncharted territory.
Final volume 450. The time on to 100%. Traffic back. Suctioning.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Welcome back, everyone. You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Philip Toledo in Atlanta. New infrastructure projects are coming to New Jersey as Governor Phil Murphy announces their arrival. In Union Township, New Jersey Bureau Chief Carlo Valdez files this report.
Governor Phil Murphy on Tuesday announced a series of infrastructure projects in New Jersey that will upgrade safety and vehicle movement around the regional port operations. The Port of New York and New Jersey, which has offices and facilities in both states, serve more than 134 million people regionally. About 500,000 jobs are supported by these port activities and generate billions of dollars in economic activity each year. Port Newark is an economic driver not only for New Jersey, but throughout the region. Governor Murphy said, "For decades, New Jersey and our ports have been the corridor through which much of our nation's economic activity has flowed. I'm thrilled that these critical projects will further enhance regional operations and contribute to a stronger, more modern infrastructure that will both deliver safer roads and bridges as well as fuel our state's economic recovery, not just as we work toward the end of the pandemic, but for decades to come. In doing so, the jobs here at the port and the jobs created by the infrastructure projects around us will help ensure a stronger, fairer, and more resilient post-COVID economy." And as for coronavirus stats and numbers, New Jersey reports of 4,060 new positive COVID-19 cases, pushing the total to 285,519. Sadly, New Jersey is reporting 38 new COVID-19 deaths, pushing the total to 14,817 lives lost. In Union Township, New Jersey, Carlo Valdez, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Phil.
As COVID-19 cases rise in the Lone Star State, one county gives its residents an alternative way to enjoy art while observing pandemic restrictions. Eagle News correspondent Lovely Anderson has the details.
Thank you, Philip, and howdy from the Lone Star State. Just a quick update on the current state of the COVID-19 cases here locally in Tarrant County. To date, Tarrant County stands at a total of 82,915 of total positive cases and 794 deaths due to COVID. As of Monday, November 16th, 900 new cases have been reported. As we continue to see the cases to go up in our county, residents are reminded to take precautionary measures to protect themselves, masks, and social distance. As we shift gears now, as Tarrant County residents will now have a new way to appreciate both the outdoors and the arts while social distancing, as the Tarrant Regional Water District is planning to paint the river. As part of the Trinity Trails Mural Gallery project, the Trinity River runs through 13 miles of Tarrant County, and its beauty and significance to the county will be celebrated through this mural project. The Trinity Trails Mural Gallery aims to share art along the river's banks for all to enjoy at any time. 21 artists from around Texas and the U.S. country are commissioned to paint murals on the floodgates along the river, some of which are 12 feet tall, which before have been an eyesore and targets for graffiti. Valerie J., a recreation consultant for the TRWD, stated, "The whole purpose of the mural gallery is to enhance the experience people have when they are on the trail. And it's not just for the people who go on the trail to work out. It will also become a place to passively enjoy the trail through its arts." The murals will be seen along 13 miles of the Trinity River from the Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base Fort Worth near White Settlement through downtown Cowtown to the gateway part of the city's east side. Tina Nikolic with TRWD's Neighborhood and Recreational Enhancement Coordinator stated this will beautify the trail and serve many different audiences by creating a destination or a graffitiing chance encounter. All right, Cowtown, it seems like we are slowly inching closer to cold weather. Today, the high was 72 degrees, and at its coldest, it was 41 degrees. Brr, that's pretty cold for us, right? It's time to pull the sweaters, the scarves, and of course, we can't forget our cowboy boots. In Fort Worth, Texas, I'm Lovely Anderson, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, Lovely. Now, just out of curiosity, how do you feel about the river murals?
You know, I'm excited. It'll be something new for us residents to go and spend our time since everybody's kind of locked up in the house, and go for a walk, go for a trail walk would be nice. So I think it's something good for our community.
Absolutely. And while you're out walking, I know like you said, it's going to be colder. So I'm just curious, how many pairs of cowboy boots do you own?
I have 30 pairs. I do. I love my cowboy boots.
Did you say 30?
They're very no, not 30. 3. They're so comfortable. Okay. They're so comfortable, and it's what we wear.
I'm from Texas, so I think I've got 3 pairs myself. So
there you go.
Well, we'll save that for maybe our virtual roundtable tomorrow, a discussion on cowboy boots.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Philip.
Thanks, Lovely. Now that COVID cases are on the rise, setting record numbers since the pandemic began, Clark County School District tables a vote for in-person learning for the 3rd time. In Las Vegas, our Nevada Bureau Chief, Anna Cui, has the story. Anna?
Thanks, Philip. Yeah, so last week, as we reported, Clark County School District released a transition plan for hybrid instructional model, which laid out a timeline for students and educators returning to classrooms. And then, of course, due to the rising number of COVID-19 cases statewide, that plan has again been put on hold for the 3rd time. According to a statement from Clark County School District, in addition to the rising numbers of COVID-19 cases and Governor Steve Sisolak's recent stay-at-home 2.0 order, and if those of you who haven't heard, he also recently tested positive for COVID. He is doing well, just with mild symptoms. The school board president and the superintendent recommended for the Board of School Trustees not to take action on that item. So the voting was again put off. The board acknowledged the challenges of transitioning to a hybrid model of instruction, especially during this time. And Philip, not just here locally, but nationally, we are seeing health data that indicates concerning trends in COVID-19 positive cases. Trustees continued to express concern for the mental health crisis and the academic crisis associated with students in distance education, and really stressed the need for additional support in these areas. Now, this is supported by one mother that I spoke with. Her name is Darlene Sanguenza, who has expressed her hope for that vote to happen because she is hoping for the hybrid model. She told me that she has a daughter who is a sophomore in high school, usually very self-sufficient, but had to actually downgrade 2 of her AP classes because, she's struggling. And Darlene, this mother, says that, she thinks the students have just, a lot more schoolwork being on distance learning compared to the traditional in-person model. And then she said her daughter is struggling. What more for those other students that were not doing so well already to begin with, right? Then we hear from parents who prefer for their children to continue with distance learning until there's a vaccine that's been widely distributed. And we hear that from medical experts that probably won't happen until next spring. Opposing opinions from parents were not the only hurdles that the Clark County School District had to deal with. Superintendent Jara said the district was very close to finalizing some agreements with the Clark County Education Association. That's a politically powerful teachers union here that could have thrown, many other hurdles to any of the plans that they had to resume in-person learning. So it's unclear now how soon the board will reevaluate the decision to reopen schools. They do have 2 more regular board meetings scheduled for the rest of the year, one this Friday, actually, and another on December 10th. But as we have been accustomed to hearing these past several months, it is the pandemic that will continue to dictate the course of action and guide the decisions of those in the local governments. In Las Vegas, Anna Cui, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, Anna, and especially for sharing the story of, the concerns of the mother that you spoke with. I know you're a mother, and you have a daughter in school. How does she feel about going back in person?
She does not. She prefers to continue to stay at home with the distance learning until the end of the school year, actually. I mean, it's just, it stresses her out to even think to be in a classroom, to go to school. And even though they're talking about cutting the number of students, it's still just being out there. She'd much rather prefer to stay home. Philip.
And I know it's because she loves spending time with her mother as well, correct?
I think you should see her room. She loves to read. So, after schoolwork is done, she's on to her books. That's what keeps her, as she says, sane in her own little world. Philip.
Absolutely, Anna. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Now, when we come back, we'll have updates from our Eagle News correspondents in Los Angeles and Sacramento, California, as well as Everett, Washington. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Tissue boxes mo. Hindi mo ba alam, mauubos daw ang mga tissue products? Bakit naman? Ang raw materials daw ng mask at tissue products ay iisa lang. Saan naman galing ang balitang yan? Ay basta, narinig ko lang din. Maraming dilim kayang nagpo-post sa Facebook at Twitter, kaya kung ako sa'yo, kumuha ka na din. Sige na't mauna na ako sa'yo
Huwag basta-basta magpaniwala
sa mga nakikita
o nababasa sa social media.
Magsaliksik at i-verify ang lahat ng impormasyon
Nakukuha sa internet.
Tandaan,
Maging responsable tayo
sa paggamit ng social media
nang hindi magdulot ng panic sa iba.
kung paanong dapat labanan ng COVID-19.
Ay gayon din ang ating pagsugpo.
sa black propaganda
At maling impormasyon.
Dennis Lu,
Lou Omelda,
Luigian Alpartosa,
Tyranel Pililu.
Hannibal Arevalo,
EBC,
Japan, Euro. We live in interesting times.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business every Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. Open for Business, from vision to action.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Philip Toledo in Atlanta. In an effort to assure that all those who want to get tested for the coronavirus get accommodated, Los Angeles is extending testing hours at the Dodger Stadium. In Los Angeles, Eagle News correspondent Emmanuel Sanchez has the details.
Thank you, Philip. Los Angeles extends hours of testing at Dodger Stadium to maximize testing capacity for the city in the midst of surging COVID-19 cases. Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti states, "Our city will keep ramping up our testing efforts because we know that testing saves lives. But we need all Angelenos to continue doing their part to defeat this virus by wearing masks, avoiding gatherings, and keeping their distance. COVID-19 is still here and still deadly. And with partners like the Dodgers, Los Angeles Fire Department, Corps, and Curative, we will stay vigilant in the face of this pandemic and take every possible step to protect public health across Los Angeles." With the capacity to test almost 13,000 people daily, Dodger Stadium is the biggest testing site in the United States. As coronavirus cases surges citywide and throughout the country, Los Angeles also faces a demand increase in testing. Dodger Stadium is open now from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to increase the ability to test up to 32,400 daily with the approaching flu and holiday seasons. This also coincides with Los Angeles surpassing the 2 million COVID-19 testing milestone by the city since the beginning of the pandemic, as rapid rising cases of the virus impacts both on a city level and nationwide. Other testing sites will also have extended testing hours from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Core co-founder and CEO Ann Lee declares, "As we watch the number of new cases spike to record levels, adding testing capacity is imperative to help curb the devastation of COVID-19, especially in marginalized communities. We applaud our proud partners at the City of LA and in Mayor Garcetti's office for meeting the moment and expanding hours at our Dodger Stadium testing site to help protect the LA community as another wave of this deadly virus sweeps across the nation." Just like the first alert text sent to Los Angeles residents last week, the city will continue to reach out to inform the public by sending wireless emergency alerts to the public to encourage everyone who has been exposed or have symptoms to sign up for testing. Follow-up text messages will then continue to be sent to Angelenos residing in vulnerable communities with high infection rates. With the number of confirmed cases spiking throughout the city, Mayor Eric Garcetti also announces that LA will be the first big city in America to offer wide-scale free COVID-19 testing to all residents, whether or not they are experiencing symptoms of the virus. The testing will be open to residents of Los Angeles County, with tests administered at 8 locations inside the city of Los Angeles. With more testing sites and resources available to Angelenos, regardless of if they are showing symptoms or not, they are all the more urged to take advantage of this opportunity. Garcetti furthermore states in his address to the public that no one should have to wait, wonder, or risk infecting others. Don't leave it to chance. Schedule a test. In Los Angeles, California, Emmanuel Sanchez, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, Emmanuel, for that report. And it's great that Los Angeles is extending testing hours and making the COVID-19 tests available, to all those residents, with and without symptoms. Now, for those who are still unaware, how can Los Angeles residents sign up or register for this free COVID-19 test?
Philip, it is actually very easy. Those interested in scheduling a free COVID-19 test should visit the online portal at coronavirus.lacity.org/testing, where testing appointments can be made. Although testing is free and available for all Angelenos, same day or next day testing is still given to those showing symptoms. Those with fever, shortness of breath, or cough. Testing will also be prioritized for frontline workers and medical professionals who interact with COVID-19 patients as part of their jobs. Philip?
Thanks, Emmanuel. We appreciate that. And you taking the time to join us this evening. We'll catch up with you here at the end with our virtual roundtable. Now, the state of California joins an agreement for the restoration of the Klamath River. Plus, other states are clamping down on COVID-19. California pulls the emergency brake on its reopening. In Sacramento, Macy Membrere reports.
Thank you. Today, a virtual discussion was held to announce the restoration of the Klamath River, which runs through California and Oregon. This included an agreement to remove 4 dams from the river to restore a salmon habitat. Here is Chuck Bonham, Director of the California Department for Fish and Wildlife, explaining why this is a significant moment.
This package of commitments today ensures a successful dam removal project. We will get going right now. We are on track because of this memorandum of agreement to begin work in 2022 and actually be removing the dams in 2023. But there's something else that's way more important that I'd ask you to pause and listen. These details matter, but there's something else. The Klamath River is special. It has been the center of the universe for Native American tribes since the beginning of time. It connects Oregon and California, from the high desert of one state to the coastal estuary at the majestic Pacific in the other. The Klamath River is a mighty river, but the river is not doing well, nor are the salmon that call it home. For many, a life without salmon in this river is no life at all. People care about the Klamath River deeply. That's why we're here today. Saving the Klamath River will also save the people and the communities that depend upon it. And nothing, literally nothing of great consequence that's ever done that changes the trajectory of history happens without partnerships, happens without the individual leadership of the individuals we're going to hear from in a moment. happens without toil, sometimes turmoil, sometimes fighting, but ultimately collaboration in the resolution of a problem. That's why we're here today. We're on the brink of the biggest salmon restoration project ever. A friend of mine says it's restoration potentially observable from space.
Now, as positivity rates of COVID-19 increase across the state, Governor Newsom announced that California is pulling the emergency brake as counties regress in the progress to control the spread of COVID-19. In fact, rates are increasing at a record pace. Here is Governor Newsom with more information.
Daily cases, though, in the state of California have doubled just in the last 10 days. This is simply the fastest increase California has seen since the beginning of this pandemic. Let me underscore by showing you this graph what I mean. Just put this in perspective. The highest rate increase that we have experienced since the beginning of this pandemic, we experienced in June. You see June 15th to June 21st, we saw a 1 week increase of 39.2% of new cases. Compare that to the first week in November, a 51.3% increase in just a 1 week period. Puts in perspective the rate of increase that's simply without precedent in California's pandemic history. As it relates to our blueprint that we put out some 11 weeks ago, when we announced the blueprint for a safer economy, we talked about ability to make advances not only forward, but also move through toggling backwards. We also talked about an emergency brake based upon data and based upon conditions that would provide for a framework of flexibility to tighten restrictions. We have counties now that we are moving back based on that blueprint, based upon the emergency brake, based upon the protocols that we put into place when we announced this blueprint 11 weeks ago, that will allow us to move back, or for that matter, to the extent we see some stability, to allow us flexibility going forward, but counties to move back after 1 week, not just 2 weeks.
The California Department of Public Health reminds everyone to do their part so that we can flatten the curve once again. A few simple steps we can all take to slow the spread include wearing a face covering, following the guidelines for mixing households, and staying home if you are feeling sick. In Sacramento, California, Macy Membrari, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Facing a spike in coronavirus cases, the state of Washington reinstates pandemic restrictions that include temporary closure of gyms, theaters, and museums. Indoor dining and restaurants will again be eliminated. In Everett, Michael Hudson has the report.
Thank you so much. Right now for Washington State, the numbers for the virus are as follows. 139,000 total cases and 2,661 deaths. The biggest story right now is the recent restrictions Governor Jay Inslee has placed on the state, which is supposed to last at least the next 30 days through December 15th. Effective later tonight, the total occupancy in certain businesses establishments will be very limited. Gyms, theaters, and museums will be temporarily closed, and indoor dining and restaurants will daily case counts, with over 2,000 cases a day over the weekend and average cases in the state doubling over the past 2 weeks. And I quote, "This spike puts us in a more dangerous position as we were in March. And it means, unfortunately, the time has come to reinstate restrictions on activities statewide to preserve the public's well-being and to save lives. These were very difficult decisions that have very real consequences to people's livelihoods. I recognize that and don't take those impacts lightly. But we must act now and act quickly to slow the spread of this disease." This was said by the Governor Jay Inslee. Not surprisingly, there are many frustrated people with these restrictions, but will have to remain inside their homes as a reported 55% of residents are not wearing masks. Many question that number, but this is a statistic that has been backed by many science authorities within the state of Washington. In addition to this, indoor gatherings have been the leading factor in the sudden increase of positive cases, and the governor has encouraged all the residents that they do not go to other people's households, especially with the holidays coming up. It's very unfortunate, but, it is likely that if we continue to obey the protocols, these cases can go down and we can open these already struggling businesses for good. Reporting from Everett, Washington, I'm Michael Hudson, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you.
When we come back, we'll have business news with Bobby Soriano and EBC Sports with EJ Gonzalez. And if there's time, our virtual roundtable discussion in observance of National Take a Hike Day. This is Eagle News. America, stay with us.
Hello there. Imagine Demi got the virus, and she infected 2 more. And those 2 infected a lot more of people. And it goes on and on until it became an epidemic. But what if Demi stayed at home? Then those 2 wouldn't have contracted the virus. Then those people would have not been infected. This is not just your battle, it's everyone's, and you can be a huge help. Follow social distancing, or better yet, stay at home.
We have several stories tonight from our business desk in New York. Bobby Soriano with the details.
Good evening. U.S. markets have closed. Here are your latest business headlines. The S&P 500 index announced last night that Tesla will be joining it on December 21st to replace a company to be announced at a later date. The announcement comes as a significant milestone for Tesla, as it has faced much scrutiny over its business model in the course of its 17-year history, with much of that scrutiny aimed at CEO Elon Musk and his often unconventional and sometimes controversial personality. It is also of importance to the company being considered a place in the S&P 500 because the index has long been the standard bearer of the U.S. economy, and its inclusion into its elite ranks show how much Tesla has grown to become an important factor in how the overall economy is doing. Amazon has begun its foray into the healthcare industry with the launch of its new Amazon Pharmacy. Customers will now be able to purchase prescription medications on Amazon and are eligible for 2-day fast shipping, with the option for same-day prescription refills that can be brought to a local pharmacy to honor the refill. The service by Amazon comes at an important time when at-risk customers who are weary of traveling from their homes due to COVID concerns now have another option of having their medications directly shipped to them. Critics of Amazon are concerned that the convenience provided by big tech, as a result of surrendering your personal medical information to them, may lead to privacy concerns regarding the sharing of your information that it routinely does with its affiliates. Shares of physical pharmacy stores, such as CVS and Walgreens, took a hit in value on the announcement by Amazon. Lastly, home-sharing platform Airbnb has unveiled plans for an IPO in December, despite concerns of a second wave of the pandemic that could hinder traveler bookings. Airbnb was formed in 2008 and has grown rapidly to become a cheap alternative for travelers who did not want to spend money on a traditional hotel stay. Chief Executive Brian Chesky had considered plans to take the company public in years past, but a string of controversies that most recently involved users setting up illegal house parties during the pandemic using Airbnb listings led the company to delay its IPO until safety concerns were addressed. Now, with the company turning a profit despite the pandemic, by cost-cutting and a focus on more local trips or staycations, the company hopes to lure investors in believing in the growth of the company even if another wave of COVID lockdowns were to occur. U.S. indices experienced a slight pullback into the red today after achieving record highs yesterday. Reporting from New York, Bobby Soriano, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
2020 has been one of, if not the most memorable seasons of the NBA. And though the finals have already crowned this year's champion, the offseason continues to be as dramatic with big-name trades happening. EBC Sports correspondent EJ Gonzalez joins us tonight. EJ?
Thanks, Philip. The NBA trade windows opened yesterday, and teams throughout the league immediately took advantage to increase their chances of success for this season and seasons to come. Here are some of the big-name players who were dealt within the last 2 days. First, Chris Paul was traded from the Oklahoma City Thunder to the Phoenix Suns to be paired with rising superstar Devin Booker. In this trade, Phoenix receives Chris Paul and Abdel Nader from OKC in exchange for Ricky Rubio, Kelly Oubre, 2 other players, and a 2022 first-round pick. Last year, Chris Paul proved that even at 35 years of age and 15 seasons in the league, he can still lead a team to success. Chris Paul ranked first in clutch time scoring in the NBA last season and helped OKC reach the playoffs despite many counting them irrelevant before the season even began. The Phoenix Suns also finished their last season red hot, going undefeated in the Orlando bubble. Now, Chris Paul joins Devin Booker, and Phoenix can claim to have one of the top backcourt duos in the league. The Milwaukee Bucks also hopped on the trade train and acquired former All-Star and reigning Teammate of the Year Drew Holiday. This was a 3-way trade between the Bucks, Kings, and Pelicans. In this deal, the Bucks get Drew Holiday, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Justin James. The Kings get Dante DiVincenzo, Ersan Ilyasova, and DJ Wilson. And the Pelicans end up with Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, 3 first-round picks, and rights to 2 pick swaps. And lastly, the Lakers' pursuit of a viable point guard to increase their chances of repeating as champions have landed Dennis Schroeder from the Oklahoma City Thunder. In this trade, the Lakers gave up Danny Green and the 28th pick of tomorrow's NBA draft. Dennis Schroeder was a pivotal part of OKC's success, averaging 19 points and 4 assists per game. Schroeder is a gifted point guard who can create his own shot and attack the basket, and finished as runner-up for Sixth Man of the Year last season. And there are big talks in Houston as their 2 superstars shared disinterest in playing for the Rockets in the upcoming season. Yes, both James Harden and Russell Westbrook have requested to be traded, and James Harden just recently declined his $50 million extension with them. Both players have yet to be dealt, but Westbrook has interest to being traded to Philadelphia or the New York Knicks. And recent talks have even brought up a point guard swap between Westbrook and John Wall of the Washington Wizards. On the other hand, James Harden seeks to be dealt to the Brooklyn Nets to join Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. You know, with the trade window opening yesterday and the NBA draft scheduled for tomorrow, a lot of teams have some opportunity to better their chances before the start of the next season, which is just a little over a month away. In Alexandria, Virginia, EJ Gonzalez, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, EJ. Now, you talked about the trade train, and there's a lot of moves going on. Which one stands out to you the most?
You know, for me, I actually like all the moves, man. These teams did a lot, and, you know, it's really shaking up the scope of the NBA. Yeah, I've been a big advocate for Milwaukee getting rid of Bledsoe, and finally they did that. You know, the Bucks did end up giving a lot, though. As I mentioned, they gave up 3 point guards, and they're heavy on their rotation, but that's going to give a big vacancy in that backup point guard spot. But I think a big 3 with Giannis, Middleton, and Holiday, that's going to be a good change-up for them. And but, you know, I'll be most excited if the Nets find a way to get Harden over there with Durant and Kyrie. You know, that's going to be crazy. But as for the best move that actually has happened, I'm happy for the Phoenix Suns. Chris Paul is going to be a great leader for Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, and they're going to have a fun team to watch. You know, I see them as being a playoff-bound team who can cause some disruption over there in the West.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that report, EJ, and make sure everyone that you stay tuned to Eagle News Sports, because EJ is often on there.
Yep. Check us out. EBC Sports International. Thanks, Philip.
Thanks, EJ. Now, today is National Take a Hike Day, and while we may not have time for our virtual roundtable, we wanted to share some quick trivia. According to the National Day calendar, did you know that there are 60,000 miles of trails in the National Trail System across the 50 states of the United States? Number 2, did you know that the oldest continuously used trail in the U.S. is the Crawford Path in New Hampshire? And finally, did you know that hiking can burn between 400 to 550 calories per hour? Now, as we're trying to get through this pandemic, taking care of our health is important, and hiking is a great way to do so. Now, before we go, we want to continue to thank all of our healthcare workers, first responders, and essential workers with a round of applause. Thank you so much for all that you do. We truly appreciate you. That's today's Eagle News America. Thank you so much for joining us. Wherever you are, stay safe and stay well. I'm Philip Toledo. We live in interesting.